Okay, so we are back. Hello, everybody. Working on our suspension in Spider. I wanted to show you something because last week I thought that, okay, Richard, you are overreacting with the suspension. Maybe there is no point to remove that before painting. You will do that anyway, to just refurbish entire suspension after the painting. I had that kind of conclusion after last week, especially that I was missing some tools that made my work much harder than it should be. Right now we catch up with that. We've got everything we need, I believe. But let's get back to the point. Right now I'm really happy that I made that decision, because the problem is not only in this area that the spacer is missing, and there was some monkey business going on in here by previous owner. It turned out that this bolt is turning with no reason, so it was not even screwed, and we found another issue. As you can see, the shock socket is totally destroyed. It was totally not visible when the shock was installed. Right now we know that we need to take some time to fix that part. Let's hope that this one will be okay, but we will see after removing everything. So long story short, that's the situation, and definitely we need to remove that just to see what is going on underneath that. So this is something that we will do today. Okay, so the wheel is off. Right now I have used the jack to support entire suspension, just to make sure that there is no extra tension in here. Right now we are ready to unbolt this part, and we will see if it will move on. You don't have to have that one. You can use a standard car jack just to make sure that this will be supported. I will start from this one, because then I will see if there is any tension on the bolt, on the screw, whenever I will be trying to disassemble it. One thing is quite important. You need to place jack in that position, so it will not interrupt in removing the shock. On the other side I have made a small mistake with that, and I had some difficulties in removing the shock from that. So it's really important to remember about such an obvious thing, I believe, but sometimes you might forget about it, like I have done it last week. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, so the down bolt is already off. Right now, to remove the shock, we need to take care of that bolt, and we will do it in a second. Okay, so the shock socket is already off. As you can see, the shock is still in, but thankfully the condition of this socket is just perfect. Comparing to the second one, you can see that the difference is huge, and we cannot leave it that way because there will be no place to assemble the shock when we will be finishing, and this is the reason why we are doing it. It will be really a shame to discover that kind of situation whenever the body will be painted. It will complicate things a lot. Maybe it will be even forced to paint part of the car another time. Thankfully, I see that this car desperately wishes to be rebuilt, because whenever something is falling apart on one side, I've got a perfect match on the other side. So right now I know how to rebuild this. So okay, we will see. We will try to achieve the same result in here. Okay, so the shock is already out. It's not the original Fiat part, so apparently someone has replaced it over the years. It is surprisingly in a good condition. Technically speaking, it is quite good. We could use it anyway, but technically speaking, we are trying to build a kind of new car. So even if this part works, we will keep it just in case. However, we will replace everything. What's also quite nice is the fact that the shock is gas-based. It's not oil-based shock. So it is really important to not cut these off, not try to open it, because this is a kind of closed piece. There are shocks on the market that can be open, the oil can be rechanged, and the shock can be used again. However, this is not that kind of shock. So as far as I know, there are no gas shocks on the market that can be open, but I'm not sure about it. But technically speaking, that one is definitely not designed to be open, and there is even a clear sign about that. So definitely we will not try to open it. We will just replace them. A funny thing, I was in position to purchase that in an internet shop with parts for a modern car. In Poland, it's a kind of achievement that I was in position to get that that way. It is always better to search for the parts that way, because otherwise, when you will turn to the specialties shops that are having parts for Fiat Classics and so on, usually the same parts are much more expensive. Just to give you a picture, I have purchased also Kayaba that I will show you, I hope, next time, and the cost was 250 zloty, so it is more or less today around 60 euro, $60 for entire set for the front suspension. Comparing, I will need to pay a double in the specialistic shops for with the parts for Fiat, and search for them worldwide before we will start purchasing. Of course, unless you don't have too much money and you don't care about the cost. So that's small advice. And stay tuned. We will fight with the spring, which became the most dangerous part of this entire process. Let's see. Hope we will survive in one piece. And stay tuned. Having a right tool is a key to the success for a fast repair. Last week I was struggling with the other side because it appeared that the spring is too narrow to stick these inside, and this is the reason why I took some time to modify my equipment. So I have added such kind of piece of metal that I will put inside, and we will try to screw it up. Last time it worked, hope it will survive this time. This is relatively rough piece of metal, so hope it will survive. We will see. So, okay, as you can see, I have squeezed the springs quite much, and as you can see, it is still quite tight on the upper side. What's quite important is to put to block this as high as possible, because then you will need to squeeze it a little bit less than if you will put it a little bit lower. So as high as possible. And there's only one limitation. You need to remember that right now the spring was quite squeezed, and when you will remove it and you will need to eventually take this off, you need to remember to have enough space in here, because otherwise if you will put it a little bit too high and you will be missing the spring during the releasing off, then everything might just shut. So it is a kind of compromise between the height and the length of the bolt that you have in the tool. I have removed the entire swing arm because from my perspective it is a little bit safer. Why is that? It is also possible to unscrew this and open the entire suspension, but I am doing that way because of two things. When I'm releasing that bolt, I feel the tension, and if I feel too much tension, I know that the spring is still too tight. Other things, if something will go wrong, the spring will break, the tool will break, I have additional shield that is protecting me from parts that are failing all over the place. So this is the reason why I am deciding always to leave the swing arm, not to fight with these bad boys, especially that, as we could see last time, it is not that easy to remove that usually. And right now you can see what did I mean about saying the perfect height of installing this. As you can see, the tool is almost done, the bolt is almost done, and we still have some really minimal tension in here. If I will put it a little bit higher, I will get more efficient spring squeeze. However, during unloosing it, I will reach the point when there will be no holding more, and then the spring will shut. So this is the reason why it is really important to adjust it in optimal way, so you could safely remove the tool from the spring, and on the other hand, so you could squeeze that as much as possible, just to not to break it, and you know, so you could remove the entire suspension. That's the idea. That's the idea. Okay, so the final step to remove the supporting frame are those 3 bolts and another 3 on the other side. And those ones are already done, but what is happening in here is quite surprisingly. It's a kind of surprise. Probably there was something wrong with the suspension, and the screw is totally twisted. So another reason to remove that before painting and to check if the entire frame is in the proper condition. So I guess it was a smart choice and a good decision. Okay, I have noticed that we had a little bit bigger issue in here that I preliminary expected. In the first place, I thought that we are missing only the bigger spacer, but right now I see that we've got more space in here that we have in here. So it is highly possible that this entire bracket is welded up in a not professional way. I will just check if it has correct welding spots, or maybe this is something made by some amateurs. So before I will deassemble it, and we've got right now only those two bolts. Those two bolts are keeping everything together. The jack is holding entire supporting frame in the place, and before I will take these off, I will make a small measurement just to make sure that it is in the perfectly, maybe not perfectly, but in the correct position. So the preliminary measurements showed that this one is always around 5 millimeters longer. So all those lines starting from this to this, starting from this to this, are a little around 5 millimeters longer, comparing to the same measurement taken from this. It looks like a 5 millimeter distance, so probably we will need to modify that as well. Bodywork was almost over, but I see we've got still some welding before giving it away to the painter. Yeah, but this is the reason why we are doing it. This is the reason why we are removing, just to make sure that everything will be perfect. It's quite important because naturally these are the places where we are assembled the engine, and the engine need to be in the perfect line with the dry shaft and with the rear suspension, and this is quite important element because every deviation creates a potential failure for transmissions element and so on. So this is the reason why it is important to put that together in the right way. And naturally this is the place where entire engine is assembled and entire front suspension is assembled. So during the braking, turning, there are a lot of forces related with those parts, so they need to be installed in a perfect way. We cannot leave it that way unless we wish to screw our job really well. So still a lot of work in here. Okay, so the suspension is out. It looks quite okay. There are no big damages. The places where it was, maybe I will take some light. Okay, so the place where it was bolted looks quite solid as well. There are no cracks. Maybe we'll check what is going on here. We will clean that up, protect that, and that will be it, I hope. Still need to remove this, but I believe it will be quite easy. Only two bolts to go. And I will start manufacturing another spacer that is located in here. We'll try to do the same way. We'll try to do the same thing as it was made on the other side. So that's the long story short for right now. Okay, so I took my time to clean that up. As you can see, it looks really nice in this end. There is no extra work in here. I was a little bit afraid about the mark, but the mark was left by the steering columns, or nothing special about that. However, as you can see in here, we've got a small issue, and the issue is quite serious. It turned out that the suspension is a ticking bomb because the frame is totally messed up. This is a 2mm piece. I already, as you can see. Okay, so we had some cut and not everything was recorded previously. So long story short, the passenger side is in a great condition. Probably we will just clean that up and leave it that way. However, unfortunately, this driver's side is a total mess, and we will need to fix that up. It will need to be done really carefully with high precision, because the places where the bolts are located has direct influence on geometry of entire body, suspensions, and then it will have direct influence on driving capabilities. So we need to do it in the right way, weld it up really in a good way, so it could be solid piece again. A lot of work. Okay, so I have prepared a piece of metal that will replace the damaged place of the damaged piece of the frame. The most important is the thickness. This is not just a sheet metal, this is a construction part of the car, really important, a piece where the suspension is being assembled, so it's really important to give a proper strength to the piece. I didn't record the way I was doing it because it is pretty easy. 2 holes and bend it like that, so nothing special. What is always quite important is to prepare a piece of paper before, because it's easier to cut a paper than cut a metal. So whenever we've got a right piece of paper, and then we can start making a right piece of metal. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to show you how it will fit in the right place. Hope it will be seeable. As we can see, we've got still some will be how to perfectly match it because of these edges and that piece of metal. But as you can see, whenever it will be ready, there will be no piece of metal in here. It will fit perfectly. I strongly hope so. I also put it on the other side just to make sure that they are perfectly in the right spot, and they are. So I believe we are almost ready to cut this off and weld it back together. We need to remember also that the crack is going that way, so we will need to fix that as well. Hope it will stay. I will not clean this part because we will replace entire piece, but I will spend some time for cleaning these areas just to make sure that there will be no rust, even a small piece of rust after we will end it up. So that's it for today. If you like it, please subscribe. We will do some more. Bye.